So yeah, I think I've shared some stuff on social media before about how I came here to work with Jeremiah and Jacob, but I've never shared at the depth of my story of what I'm going to share with you guys today, which is basically like the whole thing. So how and like why did I become interested in doing metamorphosis the first time? So I'm going to start from the beginning of how I even met Jeremiah. Jeremiah and I met in a sauna in San Diego during one of my trainings that I was training for to become an NLP practitioner. And I was in San Diego for 2 weeks. I was doing breath work and cold plunges, and I met him in the sauna. And we just ended up being in the sauna for a straight 45 minutes, talking about life, talking about what we do in the world, and really connecting. And right before getting out of the sauna, I was like, let's stay connected. Let's get each other's socials. Not knowing that a couple years down the line, I would be here being such a part of something that lights me up inside. So that just also shows you like how the universe and God works in mysterious ways. But okay, so I've always been, like Jeremiah said, very interested in my self-development, in my ability to challenge myself, to see myself fully. And from a young age, I started working with plant medicines when I was 19 and started going to self-development workshops and went to Landmark at like 20 years old and went to MITT, which is another one, went to the NLP training. I just like loved learning. I loved learning about my shadows. I loved learning about myself in a deeper level. Yet there was always something that took me back to the normal states, which I thought were normal, which was my states of fight or flight, allowing myself to get dysregulated, allowing myself to get triggered by the world and things happening around me. So at some level, I felt like I was always chasing something, whether that was the plant medicine ceremony that was supposed to give me clarity, or going to the workshop, or working with this coach and trying to figure out what it was that was broken, or what it was that was holding me in this space of not being able to fully have peace in my life. And what I realized was when I went into metamorphosis, I had just gotten out of another program called MITT. And with metamorphosis, because I knew Jeremiah and we had connected and I'd see him online, I saw how raw he was. I really appreciated his ability to be himself, and I really admired that. And I started to see the differences of him as a person compared to all of my other mentors in the past. And I was like, okay, the way that he's talking about this program seems a little bit different than what I've done before. So I was interested. Yet I realized that even just going into working with Jacob and Jeremiah, I was like, here we go. Another two men trying to heal me and tell me as a woman how to live my life. Let's do it again, because at the moment of when I decided to work with them, I was going through a $275,000 lawsuit with my ex-business partner that had completely spiraled me back into my abusive behaviors with marijuana and ketamine use. And these were addictions and just mental thought patterns, negative mindsets that I had been battling with since I was a teenager. I had been using marijuana since I was 17. Yeah, I felt like I was on the spiritual path. I felt like I do a lot of inner work. I go to all the retreats. I do the psychedelic journeys. I know on a base level like what is right from wrong and what I should be doing and all of this stuff, right? And so but at some level, I would just always go back to using substances as a crutch and lashing out on the people that I love and having all of these reactions to life that I didn't understand why I would always go back to that. Doing all of the inner work, I would have 6 month sobriety cleanses. I would do long-term breath work. I'm a breath work certified teacher. Like I teach people how to do intensive ceremonial breath work. Like I'm like, okay, I do all of these things. I literally lead people through so much somatic work. Why is it that I still have these internal battles with myself? Like I'm doing everything on paper. What's actually happening to me where I'm not able to see fully what's going on? And so again, I was like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. I'm gonna work with Jacob and Jeremiah. They actually seem at least like Jeremiah just seems like he doesn't give a fuck. And so I really admired that. I was like, you know what? Like tell me how it is. Because at some level I felt like everyone else was my therapist that I had worked with for a long time. Like I fired my therapist right before working with Jeremiah and Jacob because I was over it. I was like, you know what? I'm not coming to the same calls every week. Like I just started getting so fed up. I was honestly at a level which Jeremiah talks about all the time. To do this type of work, you have to be at a level of saying, I'm fucking done with myself. And that's exactly where I was. My relationship, my marriage that I had been with my partner for 8 years was also just like in shambles at the time. My ex-business partner was suing me. I was right back into using ketamine and marijuana as crutches in my life and running away from my emotions. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna surrender to the God is putting these people in my life right now. I'm gonna surrender to it. And the one thing that Jeremiah said to me when we first started working together that no one had said to me before, and actually like really like had me build some trust with him in a level where no one else focused on this aspect of self-development work
I
was
don't even
how
remember what
I
that was. What did it? I'm
um,
excited. I don't even remember.
well, it was just rooted on how I always believed that because I do all of this work, because I've done the ayahuasca, because I do this, the breath work, the this and that, I believe that I am this spiritually attuned person. But you question my faith so hard. You asked me, well, if you are, is if your faith is that strong, then why are you in so much fear? Why is your life surrounded by so much fear and doubt, and why are you so crippled by what's happening around you? And
Yep.
that literally like just shattered my reality. I realized, whoa, like hold on, he's right. Like I'm not rooted in the
Mm-hmm.
faith that I say and I have believed and I have on paper showed myself that I've been in. And so I was like, oh wow, like I have a lot of things to work on here, and maybe what they have to say I can actually listen. Because again, I came in with an ego. I came in being like, I've done so much work. This is probably everyone's first thing they're doing. And I just don't know if this is going to work for me, but I'm here. And like, it's just like this resistance that I had to them from the beginning. And as I kept showing up, and as I kept showing up for myself, and just also being an active listener to what Jeremiah was saying and taking on the challenges of like whatever he would tell me, he challenged me. I did not think that I had an issue with alcohol in my life. That was my least thing that I ever liked to do. I loved to smoke weed before ever having a drink. And yet he was the first person to challenge me and be like, okay, well, if it's that easy, then just like let it go for a year. And I was like, a year? Like, I mean, I don't even drink like that. Okay, then let it go. And I was like, okay, all right. And when like the integrity that I learned in this program, the accountability, the holding myself in a different level of accountability, and just also just seeing my attachments to everything. Because doing these things, I realized, oh,
I
there's a
think it
little
grows.
bit of like
I think it froze for a second, but where you said it, you realize your attachments to everything.
Yeah, I started to realize my attachments to my lifestyle, to the life that I had curated, to the fact that people around me might not think that I'm fun anymore because all of a sudden I'm choosing sobriety. And a lot of people, when you choose sobriety, all of a sudden ask you why, and they want this like story behind why you're choosing sobriety. And I just started to see that in others. I started to see that everybody was so easily triggered by my own decisions to
Uh,
decide to, choose something different. And I started to see which friendships were actually in alignment with the life that I wanted to create for myself. I
yeah.
started to see the truth about my relationship. I started to see all of the triggers. I started to see how in my marriage, because I partook in ketamine use with my partner, and then all of a sudden now I'm in this program and I'm sober and he's not doing what I'm doing. So he's wrong. And because he's not doing what I'm doing, then I'm going to blame the entire relationship of it failing on him and his actions. And if you don't hop on board with me, then we're just not meant to be. And I shamed, I guilted, I fought, I resisted so much of the relationship. I mean, we were fighting just 24/7. It was like if he, and just to give a little bit of context, it was like he would tell me that he was going to go on a sobriety cleanse with me, and then it wouldn't happen. So like my expectations and like all of my stories behind him not being in his integrity, but instead of just allowing myself to witness, because my reactions to him being out of integrity was way louder about me. It said way
Yep.
more about me than it ever did about him. My reactions to his way of being was so loud that I really came to understand, like, oh my God, like I'm the problem here. This is like me, and I've been pointing the finger, and
Yep.
that, relationships are like that. They're straight mirrors for you. And so it really showed me through guilting, blaming, shaming my partner. And then also it helped me see how I judged, projected that onto Jeremiah and Jacob. It helped me see my resistance and my judgments of the masculine throughout my entire life. So then we
Mhm.
started doing the deeper work inside of metamorphosis with like doing the trauma timelines and really seeing like how everything planned out, which was also the a really big difference that I saw from any other self-development workshop work, that therapy, anything else that I've done with anyone. I could truly say that the deep data that you get from this is next level, because I still use some of the worksheets to do completing relationships with people in my life today, because that's something that I want to get done immediately. I don't want to have energy built up, and like I don't want to continue the heaviness of having unresolved issues with people. So I use the data, I use the worksheets, I use everything that we've been given as a layout as to how to get things resolved in the now, and not having to wait until you feel like you can do something. Because what I got most out of metamorphosis was my ability to surf the wave. And we did an IG live. So if you were on IG live with us yesterday, you heard me say this. But the biggest takeaway for me was my ability to surf the wave of life, regardless of what it throws at me. Being so rooted in my nervous system, being so rooted in God, in the divine, in a higher power, and being able to truly surrender and truly trust. Because when I was taking like when I was taking full, just like trying to control and dictate my life, it was causing so much stress. But when I surrendered and I just fully gave myself to allowing myself to cleanse my body, which in spiritual texts, if you are spiritual in any way, then and you've read different texts, whether it's Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, whatever you want to read, a lot of these texts, ancient teachings, all talk about the cleansing of the body, how your body is a temple. So, first and foremost, I really love the idea of taking the 3 months, it is 3 months of giving yourself the space to truly just cleanse your body, to feed it nourishing foods, which we talk about in the program. No other program is going to talk to you about diet, spirituality, family, relationships, literally the entire cycle of what it means to be a human, all of it. But it really rooted me in the importance of cleansing my body out of I'm 30 years old now. When I did metamorphosis, I was 28, almost, yeah, I had just turned 29. And like, I realized, I was like, holy shit, I went my entire life, like since I was 16, like as an adult, I've never actually been fully sober. That's crazy. Let me just give myself this time and actually cleanse my body and actually meditate every day and dive deeper into prayer and allow my fears, my doubts, my guilt, my shames to be just sent up into God and give it up and allow myself to fully feel joy and presence of spirit in my body. And that was really important for me because once I cleaned out a lot of the things, I was able to fully experience meditation on a different level. I was able to fully experience what being present with my body meant instead of it having to do with being on a substance or trying to have this connection with something that is outside of myself, but just bringing it back in, bringing the power back to myself, to my natural states of being, and falling back in love with who I truly am, and falling back in love with the power that I hold within me, my peace, my inner peace. Slowly throughout the program, my partner started noticing that I would no longer care if he was doing ketamine, if he was doing things that were out of his integrity that he would promise me. I was not reacting anymore. I was not reacting to situations, to my parents, to my relationship with my mom, through the clearing relationship with your parents. That can't stress that enough. How you have your relationships with your parents is a straight reflection of how you treat other people in your life. And I realized that my relationship with my father had dictated the way that I saw every man, how I judged every man, how I believed that every man was not trustworthy, incapable, and I had to do everything myself. Yet, through that mentality is how I attracted being with someone that I was in control of everything, because that made me feel safe. Because in my parents' dynamic, my mom was the boss. And somehow I unconsciously fell into the same dynamic, into the same pain, into the same patterns. Even though I remember growing up and saying, I never want to be in a situation like this, yet somehow what I resisted persisted, and I ended up in the same situation. The only difference is that I woke up and I had the ability to regain my power back and not fight and not use my words in violence and not use my words in a way that was detrimental to the other person. But if anything, I have been able to complete my relationship with my partner, who is an incredible, incredible human being. And I honor where he's at in his life. I honor all of the things and the path that he is on. And it might be completely different from mine right now, but I honor that because of him and so much of the life that we built together, I have came to be here right now in the state of gratitude and peace that I've been able to cultivate for myself, even through the grief of letting go of almost everything that I once knew and thought was going to be in my life forever. I mean, not only did I have to shed my relationship with him, which came to be in a very peaceful way. We are still great friends and are in each other's lives, but friendships, and not in a way where it's like I had to cut people off, but it's just it naturally happens, you guys, to elevate it, you naturally have to separate yourself from environments that were once making you sick. And that was really hard for me to digest. But I was committed to anything. I needed to resolve this anger, resentment, shame, guilt cycle that I would be in because of my lash out, because of how I would treat people when I would get activated. All of that I needed resolved. And for me to come to a state of truly knowing myself, my triggers, my nervous system, I needed to be able to put myself in an environment where I could truly thrive and heal from everything that was making me sick. And I think that's one of the hardest things to do when you're coming home back to yourself, is to realize that not everyone gets to come, and that you have to create space for the people that are meant to be in your life, that are in the same alignment, in the same energy. And that doesn't mean that everybody who was a part of your life has to be gone, but like it just creating the space internally by clearing, creating the space externally, and just letting God guide, letting the universe come in and do its thing, surrendering your life, because it honestly feels so much better to just not have control and just allow things to happen. And then it does to feel like you are the one that needs to make everything in your life happen. When I finally understood this concept, it was like, I don't even know. And I joke and tell Jeremiah this all the time. I'm like, honestly, don't even know how like money comes into my life, but I pray every day and like just things happen. And I don't know, but like once I just surrendered, like I'm telling you, one of the prayers that I have and I say every day before bed, I'm just like, God, thank you for the opportunities that you gave me today. And thank you for the ones that are coming tomorrow. And then suddenly my phone is being given with an opportunity tomorrow. And that's just something that has been magically happening. I don't know how else to explain it except for literally having faith that you will always be taken care of.
Yep.
And so, yeah, um, all I can really say is that through this program, I've been able to really come back to being my most authentic version of myself. I always knew, like at some level, that I wanted this path, that I wanted the path of being, of stepping into my power, of being my most authentic self without anything, without needing anything, needing to reach for things to make me feel good, but just really coming into my own power, being able to be alone and be at peace. I always knew that was where I wanted to go. And so just being here and reflecting back, I like this is the first time that I'm reflecting in this way. So also thank you and for bearing with me. And I know I jumped from a lot of places at once, but yeah, it's a whole nother level of surrender, of letting go and what that truly means, and a whole nother level of cultivating your inner strength, your power, your ability to hold grief, because that was my big thing. I realized through working with Judith that I was unable to hold a lot of grief. That was my biggest fear, was like grief. No, I don't want to deal with it.
Yep.
And so being able to hold grief, because grief is life. People are going to die. People are not meant to stay forever. It's going to happen. And being able to have peace within yourself. And it's not to spiritually bypass pain, because pain should be felt. And again, the somatic parts of all of this program, having Jacob lead you guys through the space of being able to feel the emotions. There's no other program that I've done or anyone else I've worked with that has someone as Rugal as Jeremiah, who I literally just, I love you so much, brother. Like you've done so much for me, and it's such an honor to work beside you, learn from you. You have so much wisdom. And since I met you in the sauna, like I connected with you because we had very similar paths. We both grew up Christian. We both like there was a lot of similarities there that really drew me to you. And then just meeting Jacob on the journey as well, being such a Jacob's younger than me. Jacob's 28. Like, what the hell? He's on a different level, you guys. Like, he's the most tapped in man that I have came to know. And having these two men in my life have completely shifted the way that I relate to other men in my life. And because of them, my reality, I had no models of what healthy masculine was in my life before meeting them, truly. And because of them and opening up myself to seeing that, oh, I guess not all men are shit because they've shown me that they're kind of cool and they haven't let me down and they don't have real weird alternatives and they're not creepy and they're not this and they're not that and like literally everything that goes through your head as a woman, especially I've been sexually abused. Like there was a lot of shit in there. Like so having them as pillars, as brothers to commune with, I'm living with them here in Costa Rica, seeing how they move on a day to day has completely shifted my reality to be able to also be a magnet for people like them
Mhm.
to come into my life because now I've set the bar of how I want to be related and who I want to relate to.
Mm.
And again, you just like let go that intention and you let God, universe, whatever you want to call it, do its thing. And you just trust that you are exactly where you are meant to be in this moment at all times. And you trust that all of your pain and all of the things that have led you to this moment, it's for a reason. Nothing is a coincidence in my opinion. It's all purposeful, it's all intentional, it's all here, divinely ordered. So again, I just wanted to share that with you guys. A lot of shifts have been happening in my life as they continue on. I'm over a year sober now. I've had incredible relationships with my parents. Like within the past year, they've completely leveled up. My relationship with my mom and dad have been next level, and I've also been able to help them. My parents are now healing their marriage and they were about to get divorced for the fourth time. I've been the flower girl 3 times. It's like very intense family drama. But through me being, my father had smoked weed my entire life, and through him seeing my sobriety, he's now also been sober for 3 months.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
So it's a lot of things. I don't make people around, I don't tell people around me what to do. I had 3 or 4 of my best friends join the last round of metamorphosis without me even having to say anything, just because they saw
Yep.
the shift in me. Because they saw, okay, like she has peace. I want that. Even if her life on the exterior is crumbling, she's still smiling. That says something.
Yep. Yep.
And and yeah, it's a really incredible experience also to be witnessed and to witness other people
Yeah.
because sometimes we make it that our problems, our life is so hard. But then somebody else comes on and like their parents literally killed each other and somehow they are
Yep.
fine and able to talk about it in front of everybody. And you're just like, what? Are you okay? Like,
We actually have a woman who her father killed her mother, like levels of trauma and like we got it all into the spectrum, but yeah.
we've seen it all. Like literally nothing surprises me anymore. The just the wholeness of being human and what life is has completely shifted for me because I see through you guys sharing and through going through this that oh my God, like all of us have a story. All of us have felt at some level the grief, the shame, the guilt, We are so much more interconnected than we are different. And being in community with sisters, and I think something that I brought up to Jeremiah and Jacob and like why we like working with women so much is because we I personally realized, I had the realization that a lot of women have been through the same things. A lot of us have been sexually abused. A lot of us have had all of these issues with men. And it's really important to be able to save that, like be able to heal that mentality. That's how we move forward in society, by having healthy masculine in our lives show up for us. We deserve that. Yeah, that, that's that's it.
Thanks, Camila. Great. So